And the questions about job security, they are not limited to the CDC. Former Georgia Congressman Doug Collins now serves in President Trump's administration, leading the Department of Veterans Affairs. In this week's Sunday Conversation, we asked the VA Secretary about the future of the tens of thousands of employees now under his leadership. There was an Associated Press report earlier this month that indicated that the VA is now planning about 80,000 job cuts. Is that true?
President Trump was elected to make generational change in Washington, and that's what he set out to do. And one of those issues was decreasing the size and scope of our government. They set targets. I mean, if you don't have a target, then you're not going to ever get anything done. And one of the targets was about 15%. Now, the goal, which would be about 70, 80,000, if you looked at it, which would be pre-COVID levels, is a goal. And we're going to look at it and see what we can get to, see what maybe makes it more efficient without ever compromising our patient safety and our patient health and also our disabilities benefits claims. One thing that's not a part of that is there's been no discussion at all and will not be of cutting health care benefits or disability benefits. Those are just not on the table.
I was looking at some data, internal VA data, and this is on your site. Veteran trust in the VA back in 2016 was at about 55%. At the end of last year, it had risen all the way to about 80%. That's a lot of progress over roughly 8 years. Do you worry that if these big cuts are implemented, that will undo some of that progress?
No, not really, because a lot of that increase came under Donald Trump's first administration as we were going forward and look for it. But look, 80% is great, but 80% is still 20% that we're not getting that trust and factor that we really want to see. So there's room for improvement. Look, we also have a GAO report out there that says we're still on the high risk list, and that's high risk susceptible to fraud, waste, and abuse in patient care. We still have areas in which we need to improve. And what we've seen in the last few years is just throwing sometimes money or people at that is not the best way to go about it.
I think some people who watch this interview might hear what you're saying. They might nod along and say, yeah, efficiency is good. We don't want fraud. We don't want abuse. But they might be looking for a little bit more clarity. When you're looking to make these potential cuts, how do you make that distinction? Who stays and who goes?
Well, it's really simple. What we're looking at is to make sure that no one is taking care of our veterans in our healthcare side and doing our disabilities claim are going to be touched. Those frontline workers are the people that are actually, doing the work that actually do the forward-facing, as we said, putting the veteran first. But that doesn't mean that I can't look at a management system in which we have layer upon layer of nurses and doctors and others who are never seeing a patient, who are simply moving paperwork around. Wouldn't it probably be better to put them back in the clinics and the hospitals so that we can decrease our patient load? We can actually increase efficiencies so that they get better health care? Or is it better to have a bloated bureaucracy that really has no purpose except to fund and to facilitate the VA itself?
If I'm hearing you right, is what you're saying right now that it is your promise that no VA employees who are involved in frontline, person-to-person patient care will have their jobs impacted?
Yeah, this is the one thing, and I can't express over and over again. The very essence for the VA is to take care of veterans and to take care of them and their disability benefits. We're going to do everything we can to strengthen that while at the same time finding more and better uses, not only through our contract resources, but also through our employment issues.
There was an Inspector General report that came out earlier this year that found that 2 years ago in 2023, the Atlanta VA Medical Center dropped or didn't answer tens of thousands of calls for help. Many more people who were calling into the Atlanta VA were left on hold for a long time. When you read that report, what was your reaction? Is that acceptable?
Well, it goes back to this whole interview. Again, we bring out things like that, which is not acceptable by any metrics or any standard. And yet that is what was going on. But yet from some of the same people that's, pushing back against, our change and, putting the call centers and putting those at the forefront are saying, oh, you can't do that, even if it meant, making better service. The sad part about this was it took an IG report to actually get this fixed. The Atlanta VA has now put the positions in place to have gotten this fixed. I've been on the job about 6 weeks now. We're making sure of that. I've already started meeting each week once and more with our hospital. So we're trying to get a better handle on making sure that these kind of issues aren't brought to us in an IG report. That's not acceptable to me, and it's not acceptable to the American people.
To see the full conversation, including Secretary Collins' defense of efforts to roll back DEI initiatives inside the VA, look for our full interview streaming right now on 11 Alive Plus.